that the Ark is still out there, that it still can be found.
It was simply carried to Ethiopia.
It's in the Vatican Secret Archives.
He hid it in Anton.
Can a new search finally reveal its location? What became of the legendary Ark of the Covenant? And can it ever be found?
The sea scrolls were found in 1947, but I believe it hides an even greater treasure. I believe I've found the location of the greatest biblical archaeological discovery, the Ark of the Covenant.
Exodus, the story of the Ark dates back to ancient Egypt in the 13th century BCE.
The Exodus is one of the most famous stories ever told. Moses and the Israelites survive a plague that takes the firstborn sons of the land. Moses leads the Israelites out of the land of Egypt, and they move across the Red Sea, where the waters miraculously part when he holds up his magical staff.
They arrive at a mountain in which God gives them the 10 Commandments. The Israelites build a holy vessel, a sacred box, to hold these tablets of the commandments. It's called the Ark of the Covenant.
The Bible gives a very clear description as to what the Ark of the Covenant looks like. God himself is, in fact, the architect of this, and so is very precise about the measurements and the way that it has to be built.
It's made of acacia wood, 2 inches long, 31 inches wide, 31 inches high. It's covered entirely in gold, inside and out. It has 4 gold rings on which poles are attached for it to be carried. Finally, it's topped off with an ornate gold lid that has 2 sculptures of cherubim on top.
According to the Old Testament, the Israelites carry the Ark for 40 years, wandering through the desert. Along the way, it displays great power.
In the book of Joshua, when they reach the river Jordan, the Ark miraculously dries up the waters so that they can cross.
The first battle that the Israelites fight is against the great city of Jericho. Israelites were commanded to circle the city 7 times, blow the horns, and then in the presence of the Ark, the walls of Jericho would fall. The Israelites would take the city, and they would gain possession of that area of the land of Israel.
Further accounts in 1st and 2nd Samuel note that anybody who is unworthy, who even looks at the Ark, could be blinded, or if they touch it, they'll be killed. There's also the story of the Philistines. The Philistines capture the Ark. They're suddenly afflicted with a plague of mice or rats and with horrible boils that the Philistines get all over their bodies. They actually end up giving the Ark back to the Israelites, and along with it, a coffer filled with gold sculptures and kind of an apology for having taken the Ark in the first place.
Eventually, the Ark is brought to Jerusalem, where King Solomon builds the first Jewish temple at a place called the Temple Mount. He houses the Ark inside within a special room called the Holy of Holies in 587 BC.
The Babylonians attacked Jerusalem and finally destroyed the city after a 30-month siege. And the Babylonians are absolutely brutal.
They tear down the temple. They force Zedekiah to watch every one of his sons murdered in front of him. They then blind him so that this image is the last thing he sees. They take him to Babylon, and they make him a prisoner there until his death.
Burns, including, perhaps, the Ark. Others believe that whatever rabbi gets spotted in 1981, it wasn't the Ark, because that relic was moved centuries earlier.
Eventually, the Jews are allowed to return to Jerusalem, and they build a second temple on the same site.
And then a new sheriff comes to town. In 63 BCE, the Roman Empire conquers the entire eastern Mediterranean region. And when the Jews rebel against Rome, Rome decimates them among any of them.
But did the Romans know that they captured the Ark if they captured the Ark? Well, they didn't know what they captured in the temple. They called the menorah, the great candelabrum that the Jews had built for the temple, they just call it a candlestick.
With or without the Ark, the temple spoils are paraded around the city of Rome. before they are put on display in the ironically named Temple of Peace that faces the Colosseum, which is at that time being built and largely funded by spoils from the Jewish war.